everybody. Can you hear me okay in the back? Sound okay? We welcome you this evening. My name is Gordon Myers. I'm the Executive Director of the Wildlife Resources Commission. And it's my pleasure to welcome you here to this March 3rd, 2015 public hearing for permanent rules regarding hunting and taking of coyotes, as well as listing of red wolf as state threatened. We'll be clear that this is a continuation of the February 17th and February 24th hearings that have been moved to accommodate adverse weather conditions. Before we get underway, I would like to take a moment to make a few introductions. We have a commissioner, Mr. Gary Spence. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here this evening in the audience. Directly to my right, our Chief Deputy Director, Mrs. Mallory Martin, is here. Seated to my left, Dr. David Cobb, Chief of our Wildlife Management Division. And next to him, Brandon Sherrill, who is our mammologist, who is very much involved in this program. I also want to thank each of you for coming out and sharing your evening with us and taking time to get involved in this particular issue at this hearing. We're grateful that you've come out this evening. The hearing purpose tonight is to receive public input for the proposed permanent rules to regulate hunting and taking of coyotes and to list the red wolf as state threatened. Now, these rules implement the terms of a mediated settlement agreement, and although they are necessary to modify a preliminary injunction that was ordered by the court in May 2014, your comments are still very important as a matter of record, and we're very, again, as I said before, we're grateful you've come to share them. All comments will be entered into the record, and all comments will be provided to the Wildlife Resources Commissioners prior to taking action on these rule proposals March the 5th, which is later this week. Each of you should have received a couple handouts when you came in. First, there's a handout that looks like this. It's a handout describing the rule proposals that will be presented this evening. And you also should have received a comment card that looks like this. If you need either one, just raise your hand and one of our staff will bring them to you. Please hang on to the card until after the hearing, and when you leave, you can just give it to one of our staff, and we'll make sure it gets into the proper hands and those comments get recorded. Even if you speak, please feel free to provide written comments on your card. We welcome both. And if you haven't already done so, we do welcome your email address, and we'll add you to our email database where we can email you news briefs and other relevant information relevant to the Wildlife Resources Commission. This is a very efficient way for us to reach out and connect with people. We currently can reach about 400,000 people that way. The hearing format this evening, I'll cover that very briefly. We're going to present the information that's in the handout that's in front of you, and after that information is presented, we'll begin taking comments on those rule proposals. We do ask that you come forward to one of the microphones that we've set up here at these landings on either side. We do ask that you come and you begin by giving us your first and last name. And this is very important so we can match your comments with your card after this hearing. And we do request that all speakers are treated with respect. We're here to hear all perspectives on these issues. We will provide some time at the end of the hearing to record any general comments that you may wish to share with us. And because we're going to do that, we ask that as we go through each rule, that the comments that you come forward with at that particular time stay focused on that rule that's being presented. That will help us ensure that we get comments to our commissioners as effectively as we can. Once again, thank you for your time coming out this evening, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Cobb.
Okay, so I'll reiterate that we will work off of the handout that you got when you came in. We'll go through the 7 proposals that are on that handout. We'll take comments on those 7 proposals, and then at the end, if you have other comments related to these more general topics, we'll take those as well. So these are permanent rules to regulate hunting and taking of coyotes and to list the red wolf as state threatened. The proposed permanent rule changes apply to Beaufort, Dare, Hyde, Washington, and Terrell counties only. They don't apply to any of the other areas in the state. There are no proposed changes in any of the hunting or taking of coyotes in any of these other counties. So the first 5 of these pertain to coyote hunting. W1 is to prohibit all nighttime hunting of coyotes. W2 is to require a coyote hunting permit in addition to a hunting license for daytime hunting on private property. W3 is to restrict daytime hunting of coyotes on state-owned game lands to special hunts regulated by permit. W4, require the reporting of all harvest. Yes, sir.
What are going to be any disciplines or?
Can we get you to come to the mic? And
Certainly.
the reason we ask you to do that is our recording system picks you up really well when you're at the mic, but if you're not, we really can't hear you.
My name is Stanton Yarbrough, by the way.
Thank you.
I just want to know any regulations or disciplines y'all are going to have associated with these hunting regulations. As far as reporting the harvest, as far as having the required hunting license, and pretty much everything 1 through 4, or
Well-
W1 through W4.
Well, these are all proposed changes to our rules. So if you were in violation of those, you would get a citation for violating one of our NCAC rules. Are you asking about the specific penalty?
Well, let's start with the coyote. If you shot a coyote and didn't report it properly, or shot it at night and such,
It's probably a class 3 misdemeanor. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, W4 was to require the reporting of all harvest. W5 is to prohibit coyote competition or contest hunts on public lands. Moving on to W5A, taking of depredating coyotes. Under this proposal, we would issue depredation permits for demonstrable damage, but only commission personnel would be authorized to issue these permits. And then we have one additional rule proposal that would be for a permanent rule change, and this proposal would apply statewide, and that's W6, and that is to add the red wolf, Canis rufus, to the list of state threatened mammals.
Can you explain that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I was gonna. Carl, I had a couple of questions. One, by changing it to state threatened, when we first started out with this project years and years ago, the animal was experimental and non-essential. So is the animal today still experimental and non-essential?
It is still classified as experimental non-essential by the Fish and Wildlife Service, but there is a state law that requires the Wildlife Commission to put animals on our state list of either endangered, threatened, or special concern species so that they match the federal list. And through communication with the Fish and Wildlife Service, they've indicated that in this case, the red wolf would fall under the threatened category. We don't have an experimental non-essential list for the state listing, so the threatened listing is the closest we can come to that. So this would allow our rules to be in compliance with current state law.
Right. I'm not a landowner down there with a memorandum of understanding with the federal government at this time, but at one time I was. And several landowners were, and they went into that memorandum of understanding that was open-ended and could be ended by either party on notice, but it was to keep that animal experimental and non-essential. Changing it from experimental and non-essential and state recognizing that experiment as threatened elevates everything.
So in this case, I'll take that to mean you would be opposed to the W6.
I messed up a little bit. I'm posing it as a question.
Okay.
Question is, somebody with a memorandum of understanding with Fish and Wildlife, and by the state taking this position on it and moving it up to threaten it, is that elevating that animal?
No. What it does is it brings our rules, our state rules, in compliance with state law. We've never listed the red wolf under any category on the state list, and state law prescribes that we do that. So we're making this proposal so that we will be in compliance with state law. But relative to the classification of the animal, as it impacts or doesn't private landowners, it remains the same, and it remains the federal designation.
And I got one other thing. I saw you're prohibiting the coyote competition and contest on public lands. Ever since I can remember, it was supposed to be illegal to bring an animal into the state and have the coyote in there. And I really would like us to look as well. I think we've caused a lot of our own problems with the coyote. When you look at how we're managing it right now, and it's, you know, private land or public land should be in there. I mean, there's a big supposedly there's a big group of people that want to do that. But I can remember, and I've got friends that are in here, and some of them are old, and they can remember that we can remember back when there was no such thing as a coyote in any of these counties.
Right.
So, you know, we think it came in the back of a Chevrolet pickup truck or Ford pickup truck. But we're not managing that. I don't think, I would like to ask how we are managing the transfer of these coyotes and stuff across counties and state lines.
Well, the counties versus state lines are very different.
Yes.
It is not illegal under some circumstances to transfer a coyote across a county line because, for example, you can sell a live coyote that's trapped legally to a fox pen. It is illegal to bring coyotes into the state from any other state. So it's very different depending on which scenario you're talking about.
Right, so Lasiak and one of them.
Exactly.
And, but I think we got ourselves in this position by not paying attention to that early on.
Okay.
And I'd like to be on the record on that. I mean, everybody knows how they got here. And they're coming across that Mississippi is a long swim. So I'd like to be on the record with that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else on W6? If not, before we open it up, are these W6 or are these other comments? If there are other comments, we hold them for just a second.
That's still W6.
In the back, yes, sir.
Again, I'm Stan Tolman, Yarborough. With the W6 new rules, how is it different from the old rules in the Red Wolf being protected? And again, what's going to be the discipline if the Red Wolf shot illegally?
Well, the Red Wolf is still a a federal trust resource. So if you kill a coyote, a Red Wolf, illegally, it is a federal trust resource, so you come under federal rules. So this...
so nothing's really changed, y'all just staying in line like you said before.
Exactly.
Okay.
All this does is this
Right.
puts our rules into compliance with state law.
Good
It
deal.
doesn't change anything relative to protection of the species by the federal rules.
Good deal.
All right, so I'll just end up with a comment at the bottom of the page. The commission, as Director Meyer said, certainly considers every comment we get at every public hearing. They all go to our commissioners. The comment period for these particular rules are open through March 16th, and there'll be a meeting at some point as yet to be determined later on in March where they will actually vote on these rules. If adopted by the Wildlife Commission and subsequently approved by the Rules Review Commission, that's a very important step in the process, then these rules will take effect on May the 1st of 2015. And I point that out because our commission considering and potentially approving these rules is just the next step. If they do that, they then have to go to the Rules Review Commission, and the Rules Review Commission has to approve those as well. So with that, I appreciate everybody being here, and I'll turn it back over to Director Myers, and